Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 1.
One of the most influential cartoons ever, ScoobyDoo, has a deep, dark secret. The reason that the gang has never aged over the years is because they're actually not even alive. They're freelancing spirits wandering from town to town in order to expose fake ghosts to maybe one day wrest their own soul. And there's a reason that all the fish under the sea can talk and move around. It's believed that the town of Bikini Bottom is below the island of Bikini Atoll, an island that the US bombed 23 times during the Cold War to test nuclear weapons. All that radio fallout went into the ocean and created the characters that we know and love today.
Cartoon conspiracies that'll ruin your childhood. Part 2.
The entire cast of Ed, Edd and Eddy is dead. They're stuck in purgatory, which is represented by the cul-de-sac, an endless circle that the kids can never leave. And all the children have a green to blue hue on their tongue, an indicator that happens after death. And each child didn't die at the same time. Their characteristics are based off the time period that they passed away in. For example, Eddie's fascination with money comes from the time period of the Great Depression, when it seemed that he passed away. Ralph in 1903 in a farming accident, and Double D in the 1980s during the technology boom, which explains his fascination with the computer.
Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 3.
Crazy Steve murdered the entire Drake and Josh family, kidnapping Megan and bringing her to Seattle, creating iCarly. During the Storm episode, Crazy Steve was able to see the lovely family dynamic that they had, something that he's been missing for so long. After months of deliberation, he took action, killing Drake and Josh and murdering the parents as well. He then kidnapped Megan and brought her to Seattle, where, due to the trauma, was able to coerce her into thinking that he was her brother Spencer Shea, and that her name was truly Carly. However, she wasn't fully coerced. In one last attempt to be recognized, she created the show iCarly, with a dream and a hope that someone would truly recognize her. Is this one too hard for you to believe? Or does it just make your childhood that much more interesting?
Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 4.
All the monsters in Courage the Cowardly Dog aren't real. Every single villain and monster in the show is truly just another human being. But since Courage is a dog, that's his perception. And Courage doesn't actually live in the middle of nowhere. Due to Eustace and Mariel being so old, they never take him outside, so his perception of the world is incredibly small, meaning that he truly could be living in a normal suburb, seeing regular people, but interpreting them as monsters. Does this one strike home? Or does it just land nowhere?
Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Fairly Odd Parents.
This conspiracy will devastate you. Cosmo and Wanda are just Timmy Turner's personification of his antidepressants. Children are supposed to lose their fairies at the age of 13, however, Timmy is different. There is a specific Timmy Turner loophole allowing fairies to stay with Timmy Turner for his entire life unless he makes a selfish wish. Throughout the show, the appearance of Timmy's fairies only show up when he's sad or upset. Combined with the neglect of his parents and his terrible babysitter, it's the perfect formula for depression. And the entire series, we're made to believe that Mr. Crocker is evil. However, he's just Timmy's therapist trying to get him off of the antidepressants. In one episode, Timmy sees into his late 20s where he sees that he still has his Fairly Odd Parents, demonstrating how prescription drugs stay with you your entire life. Sorry.
Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 5.
SpongeBob may seem like a kid show, but in actuality, it's based off the 7 deadly sins. Each character is made to represent one of the deadly sins. Sandy Cheeks is pride, always displaying herself better than others. Mr. Krabs is greed, and that's pretty obvious. Patrick is sloth, as he's lazy and unmotivated. Squidward is wrath, as he's always so miserable and angry and hates his life. Plankton is envy, being full of jealousy and desire. And SpongeBob is lust, showing excessive love to everyone around him. And this conspiracy has been confirmed by a season 1 writer of SpongeBob. Sorry.
Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 6.
All of Dexter's family members are clones. Throughout the show, Dee Dee consistently messes with Dexter's gadgets. And the conspiracy goes that one time she messed with the wrong gadget, exploding the entire house, leaving Dexter to survive alone. Missing his family connection, Dexter recreates all the family members, however without the ability to recognize or remember the laboratory. This is why throughout the series, the mother and father are seemingly oblivious to Dexter's laboratory behind his bookshelf. This also explains why in later episodes the family members are able to be turned into monsters or even blown up. It's because Dexter has the ability to create infinite amounts of his family members at a moment's notice. And this is supported by the facts that Dexter has cloned things in previous episodes, as well as took the personality of a dog and put it into a robot. Sorry.
Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 8.
Brian Griffin is the author of the entire Family Guy series. Each episode are events that have transpired, yet they're told through Brian's perspective. Meaning that we're watching a show inside of a show created by a character in the show. This is heavily supported by Brian's depiction of Stewie in the beginning of the Family Guy seasons as a negative character. And as the seasons progress, Stewie is developing into a positive character depicted by Brian, similar to dogs' apprehension of babies when they first come into the household, followed by countless episodes of Brian being the main protagonist. And in one episode, Brian is quoted saying, "I have a job. I am a writer. I am writing right now. This is the raw material of a pictured life I'm going to paint with words." Will you ever watch it the same way again?
Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 8.
A113. There's a massive conspiracy beside numerical code A113 as it shows up in almost every animated movie. In A Bug's Life, A113. The Finding Nemo camera, A113. Mr. Incredible's power levels, A113. Almost every vehicle in Cars has A113. The code to destroy Earth in WALL-E, A113. And the classroom in Monsters University, A113. But what does something like this mean? A113 represents the classroom at the California Institute of Arts for Graphic Design, where almost every Pixar and Disney animator came from. So A113 is a nod to all of those that came before them. Damn.
Cartoon conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 10.
Timmy Turner is Danny Phantom. Once Timmy was about to turn 13, he wished that he would never lose his fairies. Cosmo and Wanda granted this, which upsetted the High Council, causing them to completely change Timmy so he would forget his fairies entirely. But it gets even crazier. In an episode of Fairly Odd Parents, this is foreshadowed with Danny Phantom in a television screen. And just look at the characters. Trixie becomes Paulina, AJ becomes Tucker, Tootie becomes Sam, and Chester becomes Dash. In the episode Timmy made this wish, his parents became Ghostbusters, which led to their fascination with ghosts in Danny Phantom. And now this picture makes a lot more sense.